Well, apparently we're recording. We'll have to believe that. Hopefully it'll work. So this is our first recorded class of the past couple of weeks. And today we start our section on three-dimensional computer-aided design. We're going to start off in SketchUp. SketchUp is a computer-aided design program that was, I'm trying to remember if it was started by Google or if it was started by Trimble. Can't remember. I think Trimble owns it now, but Google may own Trimble, who knows. But anyway, it's a company that started a 3D design program that is available for anyone to use for free. At first, it was available, a full version for anyone to use for free, and then as they made it more and more advanced and more powerful, they started charging for a professional version. But you can still get SketchUp for free to start. You can even get the free trial, you can get the full version free trial for, I don't remember how long.
30 days.
30 days looks like. So you can try it for the length of this class. You can download it for free for yourself and be good to go. After that, you get downgraded to what's called SketchUp Make, I believe, which is a kind of a watered down version, but still quite powerful. And you have other options as well to use. You have an extension warehouse, which gives you all kinds of little add-on features to SketchUp, which we will use one of those at least. And you also have a 3D warehouse, which is essentially an online community where people that you're using SketchUp can share their designs. And there are just lots and lots of things on there. And so this is one we're going to use. We're going to use it mostly because of its free. Well, a big part of it is because it is free for us to use. But actually an even bigger part is it is so simple to use. This program was designed with Windows in mind. And so it works very much like a drag and drop, click and point and system. You know, a system that is very much based in a Windows type environment. You can download it for Windows or you can download it for Mac. I have both of these available to you. And also it has lots of resources for learning, which is where we're going to go now. So we're going to go over here to the Learn. To get to this place on Google or on SketchUp, you just go to sketchup.com and then you go over here to the Learn. We're going to go to video tutorials. There's lots of options here. You can go to the Learning Center, Forum, Help Center, Resource, whatever. The video tutorials, I think, are the easiest, quickest, simplest way to learn. But there are only two sections in this video. There's only two playlists that I'm going to suggest to you. And that's the Getting Started playlist and the Toolbar series. The rest of these are useful, very informative, but there's something that you want to go to when you've had more time working with Google SketchUp. At least weeks of learning, weeks of using it very regularly. You want to spend as much time as possible working in SketchUp. This is 3D design is not something that you want to start an hour before or even a day before your assignment is due. It's a really good way to screw yourself over, because this takes time to make mistakes, time to get used to things. There's a lot of dexterity involved. You're going to be using keyboard and mouse together at the same time simultaneously to run commands. And most people have not done that before. Most people are used to using their mouse to click things to select things, sometimes to drag things around the keyboard, around the screen, but that's about it. And with Google SketchUp, you'll use key commands and mouse commands simultaneously. Key commands and mouse commands that you're maybe not used to using, that you've never used before. So you have to get used to it both physically and mentally. And so in this first playlist, the Getting Started playlist, there are 4 videos. Getting started with SketchUp 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I would like you to watch all 4 of them, but I don't want you to just watch them. The best thing that you can do is to watch this video on a screen that's kind of reduced like this, and to have open on another part of your screen, to have open on another part of your computer, your Google SketchUp window, and to follow along what they're doing in the video on your own computer. Google SketchUp cannot be used on an iPad or an iPod or a smartphone or anything else. As smart and as powerful as people think those things are, they just don't even compare to a computer. So you have to have a real computer, at least a laptop. A desktop is even better. It usually has more power and more memory. But you're going to have to use a real computer for this.
Sorry for being interrupted or being an intruder.
So we're going to go ahead and watch the first video today, and I'm going to stop the video at different points to point things out. We will not be using SketchUp at the same time, since I can't do anything with these computers to add things to them. But on Wednesday, I'll try to bring in one of my computers with SketchUp on it so they can do some things together. And there will be assignments associated with this. During this Getting Started with SketchUp series, they are building a house in Google SketchUp. And that is going to be your first assignment that you will be due at the end of the week on Friday. You will be building a model of your house that you either live in now or grew up in. You could do it, so if you're living in your house now, that'll make it a little easier because you can take measurements of your house and put them in, use them in Google SketchUp. If you're not living in the house you grew up in, then you can go ahead and use the apartment that you are living in now, at the school or wherever else you're living. But you do need to recreate it to scale. Not just, I think it's about this big. It will be to scale. The Google SketchUp drawing should show exactly the size of the house, exactly the size of the room. If you're in a dorm room apartment, not just your room is going to be on this. You're going to have your room and all the other rooms that are in your apartment, and the common space, the living room, the kitchen, everything, all the way out to the front door of your apartment. Not the entire building, but your apartment. And you'll put as many details into it as you can to make it as real as possible within Google SketchUp. You'll find out that it's not as hard as it sounds if you go through it step by step. But it does require that you learn quite a few things. So there are other computer-aided drafting programs. I will talk about those just for a second. If you type into a search bar, computer-aided drafting or CAD programs, you'll find a long list of them. But there are some that are really the biggies. Right here, right across the top, we have Sketchbook by Autodesk. You have AutoCAD by Autodesk, AutoCAD LT by Autodesk, AutoSketch by Autodesk. It turns out that AutoCAD is probably the most used software for computer drafting in the world. This company Autodesk has been around for a long time, and you can actually get, I think you can get a student version of this for free. Let's take a look here. free software for students, yeah. You can get it for free as a student. I actually do have it for my computers here at the school. And it's very powerful, very useful, and I would recommend downloading it if you're going to become an engineer someday. Download it as soon as possible and you can start using it, start learning how to use it. Autodesk is not nearly so intuitive or straightforward as SketchUp is. It works on the same principles. You go through and you learn, you design things in the same kind of way, but the interface and the tools are a little more difficult to learn how to use properly. And that is because it is designed to be a more efficient program. More efficient computer programs are always harder to use. It's just a fact of life. It's not something that will ever change because the more easier you make a program to use, the more programming code there will be in the program and it will be less efficient. It's just the way computer programming is. It's a natural law of it. So this program is designed to be more powerful, so it will be harder to use for the user. It's better than it used to be. It used to be extremely difficult to use, and now it's much easier than it was. You could probably learn to use it fairly easily without much help, but I think it's better to start with something that has a much simpler interface, much more intuitive interface like SketchUp, and then move on to something like AutoCAD. But Autodesk is not the only maker of CAD software. It's just one of them. You can go down here and you can find the next big one is probably SolidWorks. SolidWorks is a fairly new system compared to AutoCAD. It's been around for maybe 20 years, but it is it's very much used in the engineering community. SolidWorks is more intuitive, I think, to use than some systems, but also extremely powerful. And used in a lot of companies, used by a lot of engineers and a lot of scientists. It is comparable to AutoCAD in just about every way as far as what it can do. And but it's the one downfall to SolidWorks is it's a very expensive program to buy. You can't get it free as a student, and you can't get it free at all, hardly. Another one. See if I can find it. There's a lot of free CAD programs online that are not very powerful necessarily, but they can do basic stuff out there. But the third big company, let's see if I can find them here. Probably just gonna have to type in there. So PTC is another company out there, and their big CAD program is called PTC Creo, which used to be called Pro Engineer. So PTC Creo is another very expensive product, very powerful, but PTC Creo and SolidWorks, if you're a company, you're paying thousands of dollars a year just to use it. A minimum of $5,000 and upwards of $25,000 to $50,000 a year to use their program. And there's a lot of reasons for that cost. They provide expert support to the company constantly with the program. So if the company needs the program to do something specific, they will work with them to customize the product. They also maintain the program, so the programs always have little glitches in them that need to be fixed constantly, and instead of having to fix them yourself, like with an update or something that you have to install and make sure is working, they do it all automatically for you. They keep things running so that the engineering company can just do the engineering that they need to do. And that comes with a cost. It comes with a lot of cost. Also, they have all kinds of add-on packages that are extremely powerful programs, essentially programs that require supercomputer types of computers. And those programs are just gazillions of lines of code, and they're going to cost money. End of story. And so that's why we have these companies like AutoCAD and Pro-E or PTC and SolidWorks, where their product just costs so much money, thousands of dollars, because they're doing something that is worth that much money and more. You may think that, paying $50,000 a year to use a computer program is ridiculous, but $50,000 a year is nothing to a company of engineers. That doesn't even pay for one engineer's salary, and the program replaces hundreds of people that would have done that job before computer programming came along. Hundreds of people that would have been involved in designing prototypes and testing prototypes and making models of things that had to be done in the real world that now can be done in the virtual world. So they're replacing, maybe a dozen people in their company, each at $50,000 a piece or more, with one program that's $50,000 and it doesn't even need an office, right? So it also doesn't need a dental plan. So anyway, those are some of the other big programs that are used out there that you will see when you get into industry. Some companies are using SketchUp, but not many. Mostly they're small companies that use things like SketchUp because it's so affordable. Even when you pay for the pro version, SketchUp is still quite affordable. But mostly companies will use AutoCAD. They'll use one of those big three, AutoCAD Pro E or AutoCAD, PTC Creo, or SolidWorks. They are the big ones. So anyway, let's get started with this first video and we'll talk about it as it goes. See if we can get some sound here. Maybe? Nope.
When you first start SketchUp, you'll be presented.
Apparently there's no sound at the beginning of the video. Okay, whatever. And there are literally hundreds, maybe thousands of videos about SketchUp.
When you first start SketchUp, you'll be presented with the welcome screen. Regardless if you are using SketchUp Free or Pro, you will need to pick a template to start with. The main difference is the default units of measurement SketchUp will use, such as meters or inches. The other difference is the starting view, which can be from the side or from the top. Either is fine. Choose a template and start SketchUp. Based on the template you've chosen for SketchUp, your default view will be from the top or from the side. Let's all start from the same view by going to the camera menu, Standard Views, and choose ISO. Now begin by drawing a rectangle. Pick the rectangle tool, then click once to start a rectangle. Pull away and click.
Okay, before we get started, I want you to notice that Google SketchUp is showing you axes. You have three-dimensional axes. You have the blue axis, come down here. The up version of the axis is solid, the down version is dotted. Right? So you can think of this as the positive axis and this is the negative axis. Where all three of these axes cross is your origin, or your 0 point. Doesn't mean anything as far as where you have to build things, but when you start measuring distances in Google, sometimes you want to measure from a particular point, and that's not a bad place to start, because it is that 0 point. But you also have two other axes, the red axis and the green axis, the red axis and the green axis out here. These axes are all 90 degrees from each other so that they show the three dimensions of space inside of SketchUp.
Again to finish. A quick note about drawing in SketchUp. Get in the habit of click and releasing your mouse button to start and finish most actions.
So you don't have
This
to
will be
hold
true
it
for
down.
almost all of the drawing tools.
So there's one difference between using a mouse in like Word, for example. If you want to create a rectangle in Word or in PowerPoint, you go up to your drawing tools, you hit the rectangle tool, and you drag. You click and drag to create your rectangle. In SketchUp, you don't. You click to start to making the rectangle, and then you make the rectangle as big as you want, and you click to finish making your rectangle.
Unless we specifically ask you to click and drag your mouse button always click and release to start and finish each tool in action. Now, undo any rectangles by going to the Edit menu and choosing Undo. Draw another rectangle, but this time keep an eye on the lower right corner as you do. Click once to start the rectangle, pull away, and watch how the dimensions change as you adjust the rectangle size. Click again to finish the rectangle. You can be as precise with SketchUp as you'd like. Although it may not seem you are being accurate, everything you draw in SketchUp has a real-world scale. We'll learn more about this later. For now, let's move on to the next tool, the Push-Pull tool. Select this tool and click on the rectangle we just drew, pull up, and we've created a box. Click to finish. The Push-Pull tool will literally push or pull on any flat surface. Try it on our simple box. Click on this side to pull it out and click to finish. Click on this side to push it in and click to finish. Now let's combine more rectangles with the Push-Pull tool. Select the Rectangle tool and draw a rectangle on our existing box. Watch how SketchUp will give you reference points to help as you draw. For example, to draw from this corner, SketchUp snaps to this point and shows you a green endpoint. Click here to start, pull away, and finish the rectangle. Now use Push-Pull to push this new surface inward. The drawing tools all work based on the surface you are drawing on. For example,
So one of the things that you got to be aware of is that your eye can be deceived very easily in SketchUp, right? Probably some of you saw a weird thing going on when they pushed that in because you were expecting another thing to happen, and your brain plays tricks on you. If you're not the one doing the controlling in SketchUp, that easily happens. If you're the one doing the controlling, then you expect things to happen, your brain makes the connection, and it's much easier to follow. That's why I want you to be on your computer actually doing these things, okay? Because when you're doing them, it will make more sense to your brain what's going on in the picture, okay? Now after a second, you realize what happened, and it makes sense to you now. But it won't always be this way. I've seen this video 3 or 4 times, and it throws me for a loop every once in a while. I thought that instead of that rectangle being pushed in and upward to the left, I thought it was being pulled out and upward to the right because of the shape that my brain was defining in 3 dimensions. Our brains are not well designed for drawing in 3 dimensions. Okay, we don't have much experience with it, so our brains don't know how to do it very well. The more you do it, the better your brain will adapt, okay? The human brain's very good at that, so don't worry about it at first. It'll be a little confusing. The more you do it, the better you'll understand it, the better you'll see it.
Example, use the Circle tool to draw a circle on one of your surfaces. Simply click to start, pull out the radius, and click again to finish. Now draw another circle on a different surface to see how the orientation aligns to whatever you are drawing on. Use Push-Pull to create some cylinders. Select the Rectangle tool again and start from this upper edge. SketchUp shows a red dot indicating you are on the edge. Click to start and draw down to a lower edge, also showing a red dot. Use Push-Pull to push this surface inward. All reference points are called inference points in SketchUp, and they will be very helpful in making you both accurate and fast. Here are the basic inference points: endpoints, on-edge points, and midpoints for the middle of any edge.
Now, you don't have to click anything to get those inference points. All she's doing is she selected the rectangle tool over here on the left, and then she brought that pencil that shows up, and she just ran it over to the edge. She just moved it to the edge. She's not clicking anything. And as it sits on the edge, it says, okay, you're on the edge, gives you that little red dot, and if you're sitting on the corner, it shows you an end dot, and then as you get towards a midpoint between 2 points, that's this point here and this point here, then it shows you the midpoint dot, which is kind of like a neon bluish, turquoise-ish color, okay? And there are other inference points as well that you will discover as you use this more often.
There are others, but
Did you have a comment or a question? No? Okay.
these are the most common. You can see how simple it is to create 3D objects in SketchUp. Let's take a moment to explore navigation in SketchUp. Start with the Orbit tool. Click and drag to orbit your view right to left and up and down. For practice, try orbiting fully around your model.
Okay, again, we're in 3 dimensions. That looked really easy. She made it look really easy. But believe it or not, you're going to have a really hard time with it at first. It will be strange. You'll have a hard time rotating things. You'll do one thing thinking it's going to do something that you want it to do, and it'll do something completely different. You will be out of sorts for a while using this, especially when you get into the zoom tool and the orbit tool together, and you're using these things to move, to zoom, to orbit, and then your object gets more complex. It gets even more crazy. You'll find that it can be really confusing. One of the important things about this is to use the ISO view tool. You go up here to the view thing where she selected her view. Using that ISO view that she's using here makes it a little bit more, you're viewing this from kind of an angle, and it makes it a little more obvious to your brain how things are working. If you don't do that, it can make it much worse. So I would recommend using the ISO tool for a while as you're getting started.
Next is the Pan tool. This moves your view side to side without orbiting. Click and drag to pan your view of the model around the screen. The final navigation tool is Zoom. Click and drag to zoom closer to and away from your model. Now try practicing using orbit, pan, and zoom together. Zoom in, orbit, pan, orbit, zoom, and so forth. Navigating is essential in SketchUp, but going back and forth to pick the icons seems slow and cumbersome, which is why we've built all the navigation tools into a 3-button scroll wheel mouse. Simply roll the mouse wheel forward and back to zoom in and out. Press the wheel down to orbit. Press the wheel down and hold Shift key on your keyboard to pan. Practice navigating again using the scroll wheel for a much faster experience. Another advantage to using the scroll wheel is better control over zooming. Try this. Hover your cursor over this corner of your model and roll the wheel forward. See how it zooms towards that corner? Using the scroll wheel will zoom toward and away from any area where your cursor is, making navigation even easier. Let's review what we've learned so far by creating a very simple house object. Begin by zooming back out so we can see our entire model, then use the Select tool. Click and drag a selection box around the entire model and press Delete on your keyboard. Draw a new rectangle and use the Push-Pull tool to pull this rectangle into a box. Orbit and pan to get a better view of the top. Now let's split this top surface with the Line tool. Before drawing the line, hover over the top edge and find the midpoint inference. Click on the midpoint to start drawing, move across the surface and find the midpoint on the opposite edge and click to finish the line. We'll pull this new edge up to create a roof. Choose the Select tool and click on the edge to select it. With the edge highlighted, use the Move tool to create a ridge. Click on the edge to begin moving it, move it upward, and click again to finish. A quick orbit shows that I wasn't very careful in moving my roof line and the result is uneven. Let's undo that move and see how SketchUp can help us to be more accurate. Make sure the edge is selected, then using the Move tool, click once on the edge to start moving it. While moving it around, notice that the edge snaps to a blue dotted line. This is an indication that you are moving the edge straight up, which will result in an even roof.
So it's parallel
Click to finish.
to the blue axis.
In SketchUp, the red, green, and blue axes will help you to draw and move correctly in 3D space. Let's try it by creating a chimney on the roof. Navigate for a better view of the roof surface. Now use the Line tool and click once on an upper part of the roof to start drawing a line. As you move the line around, watch how it will snap to a red direction, a green direction, and a blue direction. Try drawing a line in each direction, orbiting to see the orientation. The blue direction is vertical, straight up and down, and the red and green are horizontal. To draw a chimney, we can approach it in many ways, but we'll use this method. We'll draw the side profile shape, then use the push-pull to create the full chimney. Drawing with the axis directions will help us create the correct profile in 3D space. Use the eraser tool and click on any edges you drew to erase them. With the line tool, click once on the roof edge. Make sure you see the red on-edge inference point, or you could also start from the midpoint and draw a line straight up in the blue direction. Click to finish your line and press the Escape key to cancel a continuous line. Now choose another point on the edge and start drawing a line from that point up in the blue direction, and watch as you draw upward that SketchUp will give you an inference when you are lined up with the previous line you drew. Draw your second line to this point. Now draw an edge connecting the two lines to complete a surface. With the surface drawn, use push-pull to extend the chimney across the roof to a point you are happy with. Use push-pull again to complete the chimney. By pulling across the roof surface, extra edges have been created, but these are easily erased. Any lines drawn across coplanar surfaces can be erased to form one larger surface. We call this healing the surface. Use the eraser and erase the two extra edges. At this point, you know some of the basics of SketchUp, so practice what you've learned by adding to our simple house. Draw a rectangle and split it in half. Then use push-pull to create some steps. Draw a few more rectangles to create a door and windows. Try a few things on your own. You can see how easy it is to create simple models in SketchUp with only a few tools. When you are ready to learn more, proceed to our next video where we will create a more detailed house with real dimensions and introduce you to the offset and follow me tools.
So that's the first video. And there are 3 others that will help you to create your own house with a little more detail and structure to it. So I'm going to leave you guys to that job. On Wednesday, we will meet together and answer questions and talk a little bit more about 3-dimensional design with computer drafting. We'll probably watch another video from the tools section rather than from this section, and we'll give you some more background with that. After we're done with this first week and this first assignment of creating your own house, then next week we will give you the job of creating a specific item that we will then convert into another type of file from Google SketchUp so that we can print it on a 3D printer. So we'll talk about some 3D printing and prototyping next week. We're all done for today. Have a good one. We'll see if that works.
Did you know they, because of Google Maps and Google SketchUp working together, you can take your house right off of 3D Maps and right into Google SketchUp?
I knew that they've been doing stuff like that. It's Google, what they call Google Earth, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was pretty interesting. I don't think our little town though would have that. Hey Center, I don't think we have 3D. I don't think I can walk 3D in Hey Center.
I'd be surprised.
Last time I checked, they still had my house labeled as 700 Tate Street. It's actually 214 now.
Guess I'm gonna be here in a while.